The main thing is that you cover the basics that need to go in a kit. And if you look at number 2 here, we list in the Red Cross brochure 14 things that they feel should be in your kit for sure. We all know water. Okay, have at least how many gallons per person per day? Okay, at least 1. Okay, of drinkable water. Food, they want you to pack some non-perishable high-protein items, including energy bars and ready-to-eat items, things that aren't going to break, like a jar. You don't want a glass jar of anything. If you have cans in your kit, make sure you have a can opener, or they're those new open, self-opening cans with the little lift tops. A flashlight, including extra batteries. Flashlights are great, but where's my kit? I also think that these are really good things to have, these light sticks. They're not going to give you reading light or anything like that, but they can keep you comfortable in a dark night situation or allow people to find you. So these sticks are fairly inexpensive. You can get them pretty reasonably and put them in your kit. They last a long time. I've had them like 3 years after the expiration date, and I've just broken them so that to see how long they would last or if they were still good, and they were glowing like crazy. So I think they have a really good shelf life. A first aid kit, medications, especially if you have special needs people with diabetes or heart condition, babies needing special medications. You want to make sure that you have those packed somehow, or that you at least have copies of the prescriptions, so that if you have to go to a shelter, you can take the copy of the prescription with you, or the nurse at the shelter can then arrange to get you more of those medications. Okay, so make sure you have that. That's just one of the important papers to have in your kit with you. Battery-operated radios. How many people have these really cool hand-winding radios? Now, has everybody seen one of these? Okay, so you can just... I got this for Christmas, and I just thought it was the coolest gift. So, you know, I have a flashlight here, and I have my radio. So I think that's really great. They say that if you pump this for a minute, and this is something that can keep kids busy in an emergency disaster situation. Go wind up the radio. Okay, that'll use up some energy. These are just really great things. Very compact, really nice to have with you. Tools we're going to talk about a little bit later, I think, this morning, but always it's great to have a screwdriver, a wrench, and maybe a hammer in your kit. You never know when you're going to have to put together makeshift shelter or break some boards apart to get somebody out of a bad situation. And a screwdriver is always great, especially one of those ones where you can change the heads, you know, automatically. That's sort of cool. Clothing. I opened up my kit this morning, which is a big 33-gallon trash can on wheels, and I opened it up and I hadn't realized that I had so much clothing in there. But for my husband and I had shoes in there, and socks and sweatshirts and another pair of pants and some underwear and that kind of thing. And I thought, wow, I didn't remember doing that, but that's great. I hope it all still fits if I need it. So that's something to consider. You know, if you put baby clothes in there and then 5 years later there's the emergency and you find out your 7-year-old can't fit in them anymore, that's not so good. Personal items. Your old eyeglasses, if you wear eyeglasses, throw an old pair in that kit. It may not work for you perfectly, but it's going to be better than having nothing if you needed those eyeglasses. Or contact lenses and solutions. Important papers. We've talked about having prescriptions, copies of prescriptions. You might want to have copies of insurance policies, birth certificates, deeds to the house. Just remember that those are sometimes very sensitive documents, so you need to make a decision about that, and you need to make sure that your kit is fairly secure if you're going to do that. But there are some copies of documents you should have in there. Also remember, for comfort items for kids and just to keep from getting bored, a puzzle book, games for children, a deck of cards, something like that. There's going to be downtimes in an emergency when you're just sitting around after the emergency waiting for something to happen, and you need to keep a little bit busy. So old magazines might be cool. You can see what happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago or something. Sanitary supplies, of course, you want to make sure you have hygiene supplies like toilet paper, towelettes, some bleach for disinfecting. Feminine hygiene items, and we're all adults. This is my personal suggestion of having a box or two of sanitary napkins, not only for personal hygiene needs, but they're great for stopping bleeding as compression bandages. I mean, they're just really good for that. So that's another thing you might want to have in there. Money, no electricity, no ATMs. So having cash available. I'd also suggest you have smaller bills than 20s, unless you want to maybe have to pay $20 for something that really doesn't cost $20. Also, how much money do you have in your kit? Is $20 enough? I've heard people say, oh, you should have $1,000. I don't know. Again, do you really need that much? Can you afford to put that much in an earthquake kit? And you have the security issue as well, if someone were to somehow get into your kit. Special needs for the elderly, for people who have medical problems, for pets, for small children, babies. Special needs in food, water, medications, specific kinds of comfort foods, maybe certain kinds of supplies, diapers, that kind of thing that you might need. You need to consider that. And for pets, which is a big thing, as we found out most recently in Hurricane Katrina, pets became a large factor for people evacuating or not. Food, water, leashes, some kind of situation for being able to contain your pets, because remember, shelters will not let you bring your pet inside. You might be able to bring them to the shelter site, but not necessarily inside. This is something I found a year or so ago at Target called Boots and Barkley's Pop Open Dog Kennel. And this is Constance's, but I have two of these actually, and this fits in my earthquake kit. I have 2 cats, okay, and I want to be able to have some place to put them if we have to go to a shelter or if we have to evacuate. So this is a really nice thing to have. I think it costs about $25. Yep. And when you open it up, let me just show you this. It opens into this, and I can fit my 2 cats in there just fine with a little litter box and a water bowl and a food bowl. They're not going to be happy, for sure, but I'll be happier knowing where they are. The only problem with that is I wouldn't buy one, take it home, and pop it open and then try to put it back into this, because I can't seem to get it folded back up into the circle. So check your kits every 6 months to a year. I have a time frame of doing it New Year's Eve weekend. Okay, refreshing supplies, that kind of thing. But I went into my kit today just to pull a few things out. And I have things segregated by type into large baggies. And this is sort of like my medicine, general medicine kind of baggie. And I looked at it and I saw that something has been leaking. And I hadn't noted that before. So I want to make sure I go through fairly often and check everything just to make sure things aren't leaking or out of date or haven't spilled in some way, so that we can keep things pretty pristine for when we really need them, okay? Another thing is, baggies are large now, Ziploc bags, and there's even bigger ones. There's those huge ones, right, Lan, that you can get that have handles on them. So that's another thing to consider if you don't have a lot of space, if you don't have a huge kit, if it's just for one person, consider one of those large baggies, and you can hang it up in your closet or down in your garage and keep your supplies in that, or just keep a few of them in your larger kit, because you never know what you might need them for post-disaster. And we've talked about the wind-up flashlight, radio, cell phone charger combination. Another thing is water. There's a lot of ways to keep water. You can have a water block, one of those sort of squares that you can fill up with water from your faucet or your hose. Keep that. There's, of course, all the bottled water options that we have now at the grocery store, from a gallon to a half gallon down to individual bottles. And then there's still these things like aqua blocks in aseptic packaging that are said to be good for 5 years, at least, that you can keep in your kits. And in this case, this kit has these emergency drinking water pouches that are also good for about 5 years. So there's a lot of different options to consider based on how much money you have to spend, how much room you have, where you're going to keep your supplies, and how much water you actually need to keep around.